Survival adventure on the Chattahoochee River. True tales of wilderness dangers and lost explorers. The river was calm, deceptively calm, when they first saw it. The friends froze as a chilling sight stopped them mid-paddle. Abandoned backpacks, torn tents and footprints leading into the thick undergrowth, as if someone had vanished into the wilderness without a trace. Kevin's voice shook. "Guys, this isn't normal." Patrick gripped his paddle tighter, eyes scanning the tree line, heart pounding. The stories about missing campers along this stretch of the Chattahoochee River weren't just legends. They were warnings. And now, they were staring at evidence. The sunlight flickered through the leaves, casting moving shadows that looked like figures watching them, making every rustle sound like footsteps. A cold wind whipped across the river, carrying a faint smell of something rotten, and Bill whispered, "We shouldn't be here." But it was too late. The current pulled their canoes toward a narrow bend, and Patrick realized with a sinking feeling that the river was taking them deeper into the heart of danger. Something unseen was out there, and it wasn't just the river. Earlier that morning, excitement had filled the air. The group had driven from Atlanta, 4 friends craving a weekend away from the city. Patrick, the self-proclaimed wilderness expert. Kevin, the cautious planner. James, fearless and always pushing the limits. And Bill, quiet but loyal. They had packed lightly, bringing canoes, basic camping gear, and a cooler full of food and drinks. The plan was simple: paddle down the lesser-known stretches of the river, set up camp at secluded spots, fish, tell stories, and escape the hum of city life. Laughter echoed along the riverbank as they unloaded their gear. Birds chirped, and the sunlight sparkled on the water. Everything seemed perfect. By mid-afternoon, the hiss faded, but the unease remained. Patrick motioned for everyone to stay close. Kevin's sprained ankle slowed him, and James kept glancing nervously into the shadows, whispering, "I don't like this. I really don't like this." Bill, gripping his paddle like a weapon, tried to laugh it off, but his voice trembled. They pushed the canoes to shore and tied them to a tree, hoping to get a better view of the surroundings. The forest felt alive. Every rustle, every snap of a twig made their hearts jump. Something had been here, and it hadn't left. As the sun disappeared entirely, they made camp on a small clearing along the riverbank. The fire flickered weakly, casting long shadows across the forest floor. They unpacked food, tried to eat, and kept glancing into the dark. Stories from locals came back to them. Tales of people disappearing along this remote stretch of the Chattahoochee, abandoned gear left to rot, and footprints that never ended. Patrick, normally fearless, admitted, "Maybe we shouldn't be this far downriver. Maybe there's a reason no one comes here." Kevin nodded, but James shot back, "We can't turn back now. We just have to be careful." Night deepened, and the wilderness came alive in strange ways. Frogs croaked, insects buzzed, and distant splashes echoed like someone, or something, moving through the river. Bill volunteered to check the perimeter with a flashlight, moving slowly along the trees. Minutes passed. Then came the first scream, a sharp, piercing sound that froze everyone. It came from the direction of the river, just beyond the tree line. Patrick grabbed a flashlight, aiming it toward the sound, but all he saw were shadows dancing among the reeds. Kevin stumbled backward, nearly falling into the water. "It's just animals. Probably just animals," he muttered, but even he didn't believe it. Then they noticed something chilling. Fresh foot prey, ants circled their campsite, too large for any deer or raccoon, and disturbed the soil where their firewood had been stacked. Something had been there, circling them, waiting. James whispered, "We're not alone, and it's not human." Their nerves frayed, tension mounting with every passing second. Suddenly, a branch snapped violently behind Kevin. He spun around, and a massive shadowy figure bolted across the clearing. It moved with terrifying speed, and before anyone could react, a loud crash shook the ground. Something had fallen into the river, sending water splashing over the canoes. The friends froze. The darkness seemed to pulse, thick and oppressive. Then they saw it. Something enormous gliding just beneath the water's surface, heading straight toward them. Patrick shouted, but his voice caught in his throat. James grabbed Kevin, yanking him back as the thing surged forward with a speed no human could match. The friends' hearts raced, their survival instincts screaming louder than their fear. Whatever it was close, bigger than anything they had imagined, and it was coming for them. The water roared as the massive shape disappeared beneath the river's surface, leaving only ripples and debris. Patrick, heart hammering, barked orders. "Grab the paddles! We need to get out of here, now!" Kevin struggled to keep his balance with his injured ankle, while Bill and James frantically shoved the canoes into the current. Their paddles hit the water hard, splashing, trying to fight against the pull and the fear that something unseen still lingered beneath the dark waves. Every sound, the splash of a fish, the snap of a branch, even the whisper of wind through the leaves, made them jump. After several tense minutes, the river calmed. The group reached a narrow bend where the water was shallow, and Patrick signaled them to pull over. They exhaled in shaky relief, but their nerves were frayed. They examined the area, finding broken branches and deep indentations in the muddy bank, marks far too large for any ordinary animal. Kevin leaned on Patrick, whispering, "I told you, this place isn't normal." The firelight from their small camp earlier had long vanished, leaving only the moon casting silver light over the rippling water. The wilderness felt alive, watching, waiting, and silent in a way that made every small sound deafening. They made slow progress down the river the next morning. The sun offered some comfort, though the shadow of the previous night lingered. They passed beaver dams, tangled roots, and occasional fishing lines abandoned by other adventurers. Birds circled overhead, and the calm was almost comforting, reminding them why they had chosen this escape in the first place. Stories were shared, laughter tried, and Kevin even managed a weak smile, joking about their creature encounter. For a moment, the group believed they might make it through, perhaps scarred but alive. But the calm didn't last. As the afternoon sun dipped behind the trees, the water ahead churned violently. Patrick froze, eyes widening in disbelief. Something enormous had surfaced, breaking the reflection of the river into jagged patterns. A shadow moved with unnatural speed, splashing against the far bank, sending a wave that nearly overturned Kevin's canoe. James yelled, "It's back!" Panic surged through the friends as the river seemed to twist around them, hiding the massive shape yet hinting at its presence. The water boiled, the reeds shook, and a deep, guttural roar filled the air. An animal far bigger and more dangerous than anything they had ever imagined. The friends gripped their paddles, knowing there was nowhere to hide. The river surged violently as the shadowed form rose from beneath the surface, glistening in the fading light. Patrick shouted, "Paddle! Paddle harder!" Kevin's ankle screamed with every movement, slowing them, while James and Bill rowed desperately against the strong current. The enormous creature moved with terrifying precision, cutting through the water as if it knew exactly where they were. The friends' hearts pounded so hard they could hear it over the crashing of the river. For a moment, they thought the thing might simply chase them and retreat. But then a massive swirl of water erupted beside Kevin's canoe, nearly capsizing him. They reached a narrow inlet and pulled the canoes ashore, their arms shaking from exhaustion. For a brief moment, the chaos paused. They huddled together, catching their breath, listening to the river settle into an uneasy calm. Patrick whispered, "We need to keep moving, stick to the banks, and find higher ground." Every rustle of leaves, every splash from the water kept them on edge. Kevin winced with pain, and James applied a makeshift bandage to his sprained ankle. They scavenged what little they could from abandoned campsites along the way. Old ropes, a small first aid kit, even half-empty water bottles, anything to increase their chances of survival. Night fell again, bringing with it a silence that felt heavier than any roar or splash. They lit a small fire and took turns keeping watch. Shadows danced in the firelight, making every movement in the woods seem like another threat. "Do you think it's still out there?" Kevin asked quietly, voice shaking. Patrick didn't answer immediately. He just scanned the darkness, eyes sharp, muscles tense. Then, a low dragging sound came from the tree line. Leaves crunched, a branch snapped, and suddenly the enormous form emerged again, its eyes glinting in the firelight. It wasn't just in the river this time. It had followed them onto the shore. Panic erupted. The friends scrambled, trying to grab paddles, sticks, anything to defend themselves. Bill tripped over a root, scraping his hands and knees as the creature advanced. James swung a branch, barely grazing the massive form, which hissed and lunged. Patrick grabbed Kevin, dragging him behind a boulder as the shadowed figure slammed into the shore, shaking the ground. The roar was deafening, echoing through the trees, and the friends realized with horror that their only chance of survival was to run deeper into the forest, away from the river entirely. But the wilderness that had once promised adventure now felt like a trap, closing in on them from every side. They ran blindly, hearts pounding, breath ragged, knowing that one wrong step could mean the end. The forest seemed endless, and the river behind them churned with the creature's fury. Patrick shouted over the chaos, "Don't stop! Keep moving!" The night stretched ahead like an impossible maze, every shadow a threat, every sound a warning. And just as they thought they might find a clearing, a chance to regroup, the creature struck again, crashing through the underbrush with a speed and power they could never have imagined. Dawn broke over the Chattahoochee, casting pale light across the river and the battered friends. Patrick, Kevin, James, and Bill had finally reached a section of the riverbank wide enough to rest. Their canoes were damaged, clothes torn, and spirits frayed. Every sound, the rustling leaves, a distant bird, even the gentle flow of water, made them flinch. The forest that had once promised freedom now felt like a cage, full of unseen eyes and lurking dangers. They huddled together, nursing injuries, grateful for small victories, but aware that the worst wasn't over yet. As they tried to gather their strength, Patrick noticed movement along the far bank, a large shadow slipping silently between the trees. His stomach dropped. Could the massive river creature still be following them? Kevin winced as he struggled to stand, his ankle throbbing, while James and Bill searched for anything that could serve as a weapon or protection. They realized that their survival wasn't just about escaping the river. It was about navigating the forest, avoiding natural hazards, and staying alert to threats they couldn't see. The legends were true. This part of the Chattahoochee was dangerous, unforgiving, and completely wild. Hours passed slowly. They moved carefully, sticking close to the river but avoiding the deep, shadowed water where the creature had attacked. They found traces of previous campers, abandoned gear, footprints, and the occasional warning carved into trees, reminding them that they weren't the first to struggle here. Every step tested their endurance, courage, and teamwork. By midday, they finally spotted a small ranger station in the distance, a beacon of safety. Relief surged, but so did fear. What if the creature returned? Reaching the ranger station, they finally collapsed, shaken but alive. The rangers helped with first aid and radioed for backup to retrieve their canoes. The friends looked back at the river, silent and deceptively calm, realizing that their adventure had become a fight for survival. Nature, they learned, is unpredictable and merciless. The memories of fear, endurance, and teamwork would stay with them forever, a reminder of just how quickly an adventure can turn into a nightmare. If you want to hear more true survival stories from the wilderness and never miss another heart-pounding adventure, make sure to subscribe to this channel.